Hey friends, imagine this. You're sitting alone at a candlelit table, heart pounding, wondering if tonight's the night someone finally sees the real you, not the polished version you hide behind, but the messy, kind-hearted soul who's been hurt one too many times. What if the person across from you isn't who you expect? And what if your simplest act of goodness changes everything? Stick with me until the very last word, because this story isn't just about Emma and Daniel, it's about every one of us who's ever doubted our worth. Let's dive in together, chapter by chapter, and feel every heartbeat, every tear, every spark of hope. Emma Thompson stood in front of her tiny apartment mirror in Multan, Punjab, staring at the reflection she had deliberately made as plain as possible. Her once vibrant hair was pulled into a messy bun with stray strands escaping like defeated soldiers. She wore an oversized gray sweater that swallowed her petite frame, faded jeans with a small rip at the knee from years of wear, and old white sneakers that had seen better days, scuffed, muddy from last week's rain. No makeup, no jewelry, just a simple silver locket her late grandmother had given her, tucked inside the sweater so it wouldn't catch anyone's eye. At 27, Emma was a veterinary assistant who spent her days soothing scared puppies and comforting teary-eyed owners. She loved her job, loved the way animals didn't judge her tired eyes or calloused hands. But love for people? That had shattered her 2 years ago when her fiancé, the charming doctor she thought was her forever, left her for a colleague who looked the part at hospital galas. "You're too simple, Emma," he had said coldly on that rainy night. "People see you and think ordinary. I need someone who turns heads." Those words still echoed like thunder in quiet moments. That's why, when her best friend arranged this blind date through a mutual connection, Emma made a vow she would dress ugly on purpose. Not to trick anyone, but to test them. If he could look past the frumpy clothes and see her heart, the way she laughed at silly jokes, the way she remembered small details, the way she always helped strangers, then maybe, just maybe, she could trust again. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her old canvas bag. "Be brave, Em," she whispered to her reflection. "If he walks away, at least you'll know the truth." Across town, in a sleek penthouse overlooking the city lights, Daniel Reed adjusted his simple button-down shirt and jeans. No designer suit tonight. At 32, he was Pakistan's youngest self-made billionaire in tech and real estate, but the money had brought him nothing but loneliness. Women smiled at his bank account first, batted lashes at his tall, keen-eyed frame second, and never bothered to ask about the little brother he raised after their parents' car accident, or the stray dogs he secretly funded shelters for. Tired of the games, Daniel had asked his assistant to set up a blind date with someone real, no profiles, no photos. He wanted to meet a woman who didn't know his name carried weight. The restaurant, a cozy little Italian spot called Bella Vista tucked in a quiet lane, smelled of garlic bread and warm tomato sauce. Soft jazz played in the background. Daniel arrived early, heart surprisingly nervous, and chose a corner table with warm lighting. When the door chimed at 7:15 p.m., he looked up. In walked Emma. She scanned the room shyly, her sneakers squeaking softly on the tiled floor. Daniel's breath caught, not because she was glamorous, but because something in her posture screamed quiet strength. She spotted him, the only man sitting alone, and approached with a small, awkward smile. "Hi, are you Daniel?" He stood, towering yet gentle, and pulled out her chair like it was the most natural thing. "Yes, and you must be Emma. Please sit. You look comfortable." His voice was warm, no hint of disappointment. Emma blinked, waiting for the usual flicker, the quick glance at her outfit, the polite smile that hid judgment. But Daniel just kept looking at her eyes, as if he'd been waiting for exactly this version of her. They ordered pasta and talked. She told him about the golden retriever she saved that morning who had eaten a sock, making him laugh so genuinely that wrinkles formed at the corners of his eyes. He shared how he once skipped $1 million meeting to help an old neighbor fix her leaking roof. No bragging, just stories. Halfway through their tiramisu, tragedy struck. An elderly waitress, Mrs. Fatima, who had been shuffling carefully with a heavy tray of drinks, tripped on a loose tile. Glasses shattered everywhere. Red wine spilled like blood across the floor. The poor woman gasped, clutching her knee, tears filling her eyes as customers murmured and looked away. Emma didn't hesitate. She jumped up, knelt beside Mrs. Fatima, and gently helped her to a chair. "It's okay, Auntie, I've got you," she said softly in Urdu, then switched to English for the manager rushing over. "Please bring ice and a bandage, she's hurt her knee. And don't worry about the mess, I'll help clean it." Without waiting, Emma grabbed napkins, wiped the floor on her hands and knees, her ugly sweater now stained with sauce, her hair falling messier. She comforted the waitress with stories of her own clumsy days at the clinic until the old woman smiled through her pain. Daniel watched, frozen in his seat at first, then quietly joined her, rolling up his sleeves, helping lift the tray pieces, tipping the waitress extra from his pocket without anyone noticing. But his eyes never left Emma. In that moment, surrounded by broken glass and spilled wine, he saw something rarer than any diamond he'd ever bought: pure, unfiltered kindness. His chest tightened with an emotion he hadn't felt in years, real admiration, mixed with a spark of something deeper, like the first light after a long dark night. Emma returned to the table blushing, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Sorry. I probably ruined the date. I just couldn't sit there." Daniel reached across, his hand gently covering hers for the first time. "Emma, you didn't ruin anything. You just made this the best night of my year." His voice cracked slightly with emotion. "People spend lifetimes trying to impress me, but you showed me who you really are in 30 seconds. And I think I'm already falling." She laughed nervously, pulling her hand back, unaware that the man whose touch felt so safe was worth more than the entire restaurant. "You're sweet, but I'm just ordinary. Trust me, you'll see." Little did she know, ordinary was exactly what Daniel had been praying for. As they walked out under the starry Multan sky, sharing one umbrella because light rain had begun, Emma felt her walls cracking. For the first time in years, someone hadn't flinched at her real self. But challenges loomed. Her old fears whispered that good things never lasted, and Daniel carried his own secret that could shatter everything. The next morning, Emma woke with butterflies and dread tangled together. Daniel had asked for a second date at the park that evening, nothing fancy, just walking and talking. She wore another simple outfit, still testing, still scared. "What if he Googles me and finds nothing impressive?" she thought, feeding her rescue cat while replaying his kind eyes. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his office, staring at the city skyline, replaying her helping Mrs. Fatima. He had almost told her who he was last night but stopped, afraid she'd change, afraid the magic would vanish like every other relationship. At the park, under blooming gulmohar trees, they walked side by side. Children laughed on swings, an old couple fed pigeons. Daniel opened up first. "Emma, growing up poor after my parents died taught me one thing: money can buy comfort, but never belonging. Women see the billionaire, not the guy who still cries watching old family videos." Tears welled in his eyes as he shared how he once proposed to a girlfriend who left when he tested her by pretending to lose everything. Emma's heart broke for him. She squeezed his arm. "Daniel, that's terrible. You deserve someone who sees your soul first." Then she confessed her own pain, the fiancé's cruel words, the nights she cried wondering if her kindness made her weak. "That's why I dressed like this yesterday. I needed to know you weren't judging the sweater, but me." They stopped by a bench. Daniel turned to her, voice trembling with raw honesty. "I knew from the first second. And last night, when you knelt in that mess. Emma, I've never felt so seen. You're not ordinary, you're extraordinary in the quietest, most powerful way." But the challenge hit like a storm. A sleek black car pulled up nearby. Daniel's assistant stepped out, calling loudly, "Mr. Reed, the board meeting in Dubai is in 2 hours. Your private jet is ready." Phones buzzed with headlines. "Billionaire Daniel Reed closes another $1 billion deal." Emma froze, color draining from her face. "Mr. Reed? Billionaire? You lied?" Her voice cracked, old betrayal flooding back. She stepped away, tears streaming. "I thought you were real. Was this another test?" Did my ugly clothes amuse the rich guy? Pain twisted her features, heart racing, hands shaking as memories of being called not enough crashed over her. Daniel's face crumpled in panic. He dropped to one knee right there on the grass, not caring about the staring families. Emma, no! I didn't tell you because I was terrified you'd see only the money, like everyone else. But yesterday, when you helped that waitress without knowing who I was, that was the moment I fell completely. I've cancelled meetings, ignored calls, just to be here as plain Daniel. Please look at me. I'm the same man who laughed at your sock-eating dog story. She turned, sobbing softly under the trees. How can I trust? My heart can't survive another lie. That's when the resolution bloomed like dawn. Daniel pulled out his phone, showing her photos, him in old clothes at animal shelters he funded anonymously, him cooking for his housekeeper's family, him crying at his brother's graduation because he paid for it all in secret. This is me, Emma, the version only you've truly met. Your kindness didn't just impress me, it saved me from becoming cold and empty. Let me prove it every day, not with jets or money, but with time, listening, and loving the real you. Emma searched his eyes, seeing the same vulnerability she felt. Slowly she reached out, wiping a tear from his cheek. I helped that waitress because that's who I am, Daniel. And if you can love that messy, sweater-wearing girl, then maybe I can love the man who chooses kindness over power. They hugged under the falling petals, rain starting again, but this time it felt like cleansing, like new beginnings. Weeks turned into months. Emma kept her job, still dressing simply sometimes just to remind them both. Daniel sold one luxury car to donate more to local vet clinics. Their first real fight came when paparazzi hounded her. Challenge resolved when he chose to step back from spotlight events so she felt safe. Every hurdle taught them, honesty heals, kindness connects. Today, they sit on that same park bench, engagement rings simple and meaningful, a silver band with a tiny paw print, because that's how their story began. And friends, here's the truth that joins us all. No matter how broken your past, how plain you feel, or how shiny the world seems, when you show up as your real self and choose kindness in the small moments, the right person doesn't just see you, they fall in love with the light only you carry. Stop hiding behind perfect masks. Be the one who helps the waitress, who listens to the lonely heart, who dares to love without armor. Your ordinary today might be someone's extraordinary forever. If this story touched you, remember, your kindness is your superpower. Share it, live it, and watch beautiful things unfold. Thank you for walking this journey with me from the very first hook to this inspiring close. You're never alone in choosing heart over everything else. Until next time, stay kind, stay real.